Well, well, hello everybody. I'm back. My sickness is basically gone. My voice is basically returned. It's still a little messed up. If you can hear it, I'm sorry. If you can't hear it, I might also be sorry, or you might be lucky. Either way. What a good episode that was. Right off the bat, I have to say that I called who the voices were before Laurie's voice told us that they were Amy, Jim, and Jackie. I announced that I knew the first voice was Amy, and that the third voice was Jackie, and that I was sure I recognized the second voice, that it was probably Jim. So I guess that one was sort of a guess, but I still guessed it correctly, and I was proven right. And whoo boy, did those voices have a lot to say. Now, in themselves they didn't say that much, aside from Laurie's, but the first three, Amy, Jim, and Jackie, there's two ways to think about them. Either it's all in Rick's head, and you believe in the more realistic version of this show, which it basically is a realistic show, despite the whole zombie thing. It's all centered around realism. Or there's the second avenue of believing they were voices from heaven. He was speaking to three people who had died, after all. Either way, they both sort of lead to the same conclusion. If you believe the voices were actually from heaven, that they were the dead speaking to Rick, they were sort of questioning him as to why he should be able to join their group up in heaven, basically saying that he probably isn't allowed to because of the horrible things he's had to do and the decisions he's been making as of late. And if you believe the voices were all just in Rick's head, which is what they were, then it still circles around back to that same idea where Rick has those discussions with those voices, and then Laurie tells him that they were the dead, and so it was his mind basically telling him that you've done horrible things, you've made horrible decisions, you got your wife killed, you treated her like shit before that, and so you don't deserve to go to heaven. You've gone wrong, and you have to make amends, which is what he and Laurie basically discuss towards the end of the episode. And really quick, since we're talking about the phone calls, I really love the scene in which Herschel came in and was telling Rick how he could phantom feel his leg and wiggling his toes, and that I'm pretty sure Herschel didn't believe a word Rick was saying. He didn't want to, make mention of that at all and incite Rick's wrath any further, but I'm pretty sure he knew the phone wasn't ringing and just decided to leave Rick to his madness, just sort of, hoping the situation would take care of itself, or maybe even knowing that it would. Herschel's a pretty wise guy, after all. The phone call also gave me a quick idea that it would be really neat if Jim came back into the show. Now, I wouldn't expect him to be alive, although that would be a twist if they suddenly found Jim. Maybe another group picked him up and somehow knew how to save him or whatever. I know that's very unlikely, but still, that'd be a neat twist. But it would still be pretty neat if they just found him as a zombie. Even if it was random and they didn't, make a big deal out of it. Let's just say one of the governor's men killed him, so no one ever even knew it was Jim except for the audience. It'd be pretty cool. I really enjoyed that story that Daryl told about his mom, about how she passed in the fire, with his home burning down and his mom along with it. It was a good connection moment for him and Carl, which is I think a really good thing because it'll tie or anchor Daryl to the group even more when Merle obviously starts coming between them in the very near future. And then another good tie-in was Daryl basically becoming more and more aggressive as he sat there thinking about Carol and slamming her knife on the ground and wall. He was practically about to pull a Rick, go into crazy vision and start killing a bunch of walkers. Now, I mean, it may have stopped after he killed what he thought was in that room. Turned out to be Carol, but he was definitely losing it a little bit. And by the way, I knew it was Carol. My girlfriend and I both knew it was Carol. We called it as soon as the door was moving and they skipped it to come back to it later. We knew it was Carol. One other quick thing about the prison. I'm now convinced that Carl shot Lori in the head. I had previously been doubting that. Not that it mattered, because she turned out to be eaten by the bloated zombie. But I now have doubts as to whether Carl truly believes she was going to be dead or not. I think he may have shot her prematurely and knows that he shot her prematurely. When he was telling Daryl he shot his mom, he didn't say she was dead. He said she was out, and then he shot her. I think that's a significant difference, but maybe not. Alright, now let's move away from the prison and over to Woodbury. But before we get to Woodbury, let's talk about Michonne and Meryl and their skirmish outside of Woodbury. I gotta say, it was awesome to see Michonne kicking ass and killing some humans for a change. Not that I want to see humans killed, but you know what I mean. And I'm definitely starting to like her more. It could have to do with the fact that she's now at the prison and going to be interacting with the actual group of survivors, the cast we know. But I'm finally starting to care about her and her plotline. And I was actually concerned for her, hoping that Merle and his gang wouldn't get the better of her. It's really unfortunate that towards the end of the episode she couldn't act. When Merle was taking Maggie and Glenn hostage, I really wanted her to rush out there and kill him. I know that would have been sort of a lame ending to the Merle thing, but I wanted her to do that so badly that it would have been worth it. It will be better in this way, because there's plenty more content to happen with Merle, especially since he and Daryl haven't even met up yet, or Daryl doesn't even know that Merle's alive still. And without reading the comics, I remind everyone, I don't read the comics. I called that Michonne was going to go to the prison. I really like the way in which they got her to the prison, because though she still shouldn't have known where to go, she took the baby formula in an intelligent move to help plead her case. But more important than that, the show recreated the whole guts concept from the very second episode of the show, season 1, episode 2, in which Rick and Glenn covered themselves in zombie guts to blend in with the walkers. And even though it was inadvertent, Michonne did the exact same thing, and I love that they recreated that. Now to actually talk about things inside Woodbury, I just don't know if I should feel bad for Andrea or not. She's technically my favorite character now, as of season 3, but I just don't know if I should feel bad for her. I think she's being too naive. Like, she deliberately wants to be naive and ignore the feelings in her gut that she must be having. Despite how the governor's been acting around her, we saw him continue to act as a psychopath by scratching the lines on the paper, and it's in fact so important to him, he has to be so meticulous about it that he does so through a magnifying glass to make sure it gets the lines exactly right. In a way that kind of helps me care about the governor. The crazier he is, the more I like his character. And in liking his character, once again, he and Merle do not trust each other. They showed another case of this. I'm positive the governor knew that Merle was lying about what went down with Michonne, but he's ignoring it for now because Merle basically saved his own butt once again and brought 2 other people back to the city. It's also interesting how the governor wanted Michonne's head, and I doubt it was for proof of her death, but more so he could add it to his aquarium collection. And while I still don't know what that's about, it's a cool thing because it's more examples of him being a nutcase. And then there's 2 things I thought of that sort of are bothering me, and I wish I had a DVR and had been recording the episodes, but I don't, so I can't go back and check. But in the very first episode, when all they were showing of Michonne and Andrea was them running, Michonne made mention of them running specifically from someone, and I don't think it was the walkers, because A, they handle them pretty well, B, they had her pets to deter the walkers, and C, Michonne had just killed them, and they made them sound like there was a different group of people coming after them, and I don't know what that was about. And then secondly, in the first Woodbury episode, what I believe would be the second of this season, at the very end of it, when the governor, when we were shown the governor's aquarium collection, right before that, when he was walking through his room over to that hidden wall, I swear there was a brunette naked in his bed. Obviously, she had a sheet on her because it's cable television, but it's weird, it's bizarre that he's sleeping with Andrea, and meanwhile there was this other woman in his bed. Now, it's not bizarre that he would be sleeping with more than one person. He is A, a man, B, in power, and C, a lunatic. But it's bizarre that it's not really being made mention of, that the other woman doesn't seem to be around at all. I guess unless she just comes around every now and then for a good time, and then it's not a big deal if the governor is with other people in the meantime.